Out there, this is Friday, October 5th, 2018, and it's about 9:20 in the morning here in Northern California. It's funny, different people say the year differently. Like, for example, people will say it's 2018, and I take issue with that because it's going to sound pretty silly when you get up there in numbers. You know, if you can imagine back in 1918, people were saying it's the year 1918. It would sound pretty goofy. So a lot of times the way we speak has to do with what we perceive as sounding correct, proper, right. And I believe it sounded right to say 2009, but beyond that, 1 through 9, I'd say it's 2001, 2002. It sounded better than 2001, 2002, 2009. But when you hit 2010, it starts sounding better, I think, to say 2010, 2011. It's shorter too. But nevertheless, I don't care how people want to say it. One way is shorter than the other, though. And it's going to sound goofy decades from now if we're still around as a species. But today I want to get into a lot of different things, but I really wanted to stay focused on the theme being human improvement and what we can do as individuals and as a society, as a collective, as a family, as a race, as a species. And I want us to explore where our fears come from, our insecurities, our doubts, our worries, our stresses, our frustrations. Those things that bug us in a way that really sticks in our craw, And a lot of this is very common among human beings, and it seems to transcend all classes. I mean, the rich are affected, the medium are affected, the poor are affected by a lot of besetting issues that are common among human beings. And there's a lot of negativity in the world system that we have to deal with, and it doesn't help to suggest that isn't true. It's very true. And we need to explore the source of that negativity and confront it, to address it, if we ever hope to extricate ourselves from it and to be free. We need to not be confused, but yet that's precisely what the establishment, status quo, the grand puppeteers, this tiny critical mass, wishes to do to us. We need to ask ourselves, what is God's opinion? Always, at the end of the day. We need to ask, is it proper to allow fresh and bitter water out of the stream of your mouth? And then, whether you say it's right or wrong, you should not allow it. Your words should always be pure. Therefore, your heart needs to be pure. Where the thoughts originate from that come out your mouth, and my mouth too. I mean, like it's written in the 3rd chapter of James, the tongue is a deadly poison. Who can tame the tongue? A man that can tame the tongue is perfect. But this obviously is what we need to shoot for. If Jesus said, be ye perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect. Well, if James explains perfection in that sense, that's about the best we can do. If you keep a pure heart, then, that's what we ought to be shooting for. All of us as individuals and as a society is to be pure of heart. And we've got to understand the very powerful forces behind making sure we aren't empowered. And the way to empowerment is through knowledge, information, truth, wisdom, the wisdom of the ages when it comes down to things like values, the proper values that we should hold. What is God's opinion, first and foremost, before we start just haphazardly deciding what is our opinion on a very controversial issue? Do we ask, first and foremost, what is God's opinion on that issue? What does he want? What is the truth? Is it true that we must be on everybody's side? And the reason I say that is because Jesus said to love our enemies. So yes, essentially, if you love your enemy, you're on his side. Even if you're excoriating your enemy, you're still his friend, because you realize he kind of needs to be hit over the head, metaphorically, in order to understand the evil of his ways and where that's going to land him, in a very bad, sad place. And you're wanting to save him from that place as a friend to God and man. You know, this is a decision that I make. This is why I do what I do, because I'm called on to be a servant to humanity by God. I have the fear of God in my soul, and I mean that in the most positive of ways. And it's something I would implore everybody to embrace, is this idea of revering God to the point where you understand that God is literally everything about you. God is your source, your owner, your origin, your genesis. You existed in the mind of God before you knew anything, before you were a twinkle in your parents' eyes. Okay, God had already decided that there was something there. Okay, he knew you. He knew that he was creating you in his image and likeness, and unique too. And science can prove this now. I mean, the fingerprint. Can you imagine all these billions of people that are not only alive on the earth, but how about all the people that have already lived? Have you ever wondered how many people have lived on the earth and died already? What is that number? It's intriguing. It really is. I'm not even nearly, I could take a ballpark guess. But I think that I've discussed this with people before, and it's not as many as you'd think. But it's likely in the billions, but it's not as many as you might think that have we ever been known to live and die on planet Earth. But it's a large sum of people, nevertheless. But the point is that each one of us is special. If every snowflake is individual, think how much more these creatures that are made in the image and likeness of God, to be eternal, because God is eternal. This whole idea of life everlasting, infinity, is from the mind of God, and he bestows it upon us. He gifts us. We're made in his image and likeness. He gave us really good gifts like a conscience that a lot of people, they hate their, curse their conscience. There's different ways to look at this thing. And that's why we have so many problems in society, is because people choose to not value the proper things. They don't value their conscience. They say, well, that's a nuisance. I just want to, run roughshod over humanity. I just want to make a large profit off humanity. And they're able to do so in this world currently because, like Jesus said, the prince of this world is Satan, okay? And, I mean, that kind of sums it up. And we can't serve two masters, so we're all torn and frayed, and we're all contending with a very profound, dramatic paradox. I mean, our values, if they're not right, okay, we're going to be stricken in our conscience, okay? Do you understand? You can't be happy if your conscience is stricken. But you see, even if I say, well, I'm on a high horse and I've removed myself from all you lowlifes that, allow your conscience to be stricken, and my conscience is pure because I'm completely altruistic, and I lay my life before God. My sins are transparent. He knows everything, and my heart is good and clean and pure and right. I'm righteous and all that good stuff. We're still in the same boat, you understand? So I'm picking up on the negativity. There's no way to avoid it, okay? We're stuck here together, okay? So if people around me continually start wanting to abandon their conscience, and I say, my God, don't they get that that's the opposite of what you want to do? So it's going to lead them into hell is what that's going to do. I mean, who are you? If you're going to lie to yourself, I mean, who are you? You have to be honest at your core. If you're not honest at your core and say, look, I need somebody to understand me, And it doesn't matter if all, 7 something billion people on the face of the earth disagree. If the one that owns you is in sync with who you need to be and expressing that and laying everything on the line and saying, look, this is what I know, okay? I need to be who I need to be. I need to be true to myself. I need to be somebody. I need to confess. I need to admit. I need to be honest, okay? I need you because no human being can save me from death. Only God is promised to be able to do that. My owner, the Almighty Creator that loves me in a way nobody else can understand. I can't understand. I feel unlovable sometimes. Hell, I loathe myself sometimes. I want to self-flagellate. I don't understand. I'm weak and pathetic and pitiable like every other human being. And I don't understand God's amazing grace, but I'm going to take it. And I'm going to feel lucky. I'm going to feel grateful. I'm going to feel blessed. I'm going to feel spoiled. And you know something? There's two different ways to look at that too. A lot of people say, well, I don't want to feel spoiled. Victor Hugo, adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. And I get it. Everybody can get it. The rich can get it. The medium can get it. The poor can get it. Look, we can all understand profound truth because we are made profoundly with incredible potential. I mean, it is virtually unlimited. Essentially, it's unlimited. The sky's the limit when it comes to anything you can imagine, we can bring to fruition. We can make tangible where you can hold it in your hand. Okay, I want quiet airplanes. Where I am, there's an air path. There's planes all the time flying right overhead. I hate it. It's noisy. The reception on the antenna TV is interrupted because the radio transmission has to be cleared. So they scramble everything else, I guess. I don't know how it works. But I would like quiet airplanes. So, hey, you know what? There's plenty of stories out there of that technology. And it's just gravity technology. Basically, you could look at that two different ways. It's either amplifying gravity or it is removing gravity. It's the same thing. It's half a dozen of one, six of the other. Okay, a lot of times there's different ways to reach a mathematical equation, calculation, to arrive at the figure you're looking for, the answer. The solution to the equation, right? There's different ways to do the math, but at the end of the day, as long as the number is right, you did the math right. So that's how it is in life. So looking at gratitude is different. Yeah, you could say it like, oh, I'm so grateful. And, you meet somebody and they're always, so grateful and happy and at peace and such a blessing to be around. And, I get it. I know people like that, right? My own family. And, it's wonderful. And they're the nicest people in the world. I got a sister. I joked with her. She was stressing out. I was with her in a Lyft car on the way to my niece's wedding, her daughter, one of her two twin daughters, beautiful, absolute beautiful women. We were on the way to the wedding, my sister and my mother and I, and my sister was stressing out about stuff about being late to her own daughter's wedding, and thought, oh my God, it was really bothering her conscience. And I told her, look, I said, sister, you are such a nice human being, okay, that you could become a serial murderer if you wanted to, and everybody in your family would love you just the same. I mean, she's that nice of a person. So I'm very lucky to have people like that in my own family. And there's plenty of other people like that too. I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate. I'm very grateful. There's different ways to look at this thing. But you can also always say that, you can see the other point of view where people feel like, hey, you know what? I want to feel sorry for myself. I want a tough row to hoe so I don't feel spoiled. I don't want to feel spoiled. Who wants to feel spoiled? You want to be a spoiled brat? I mean, that's a negative thing. That's a bad thing. So we can get it. We can get what Victor Hugo said. We get the gist of it. That hardship, difficulties, understanding the plight of the downtrodden. Okay, this can build character, and this makes men, real men and women with integrity and honor and all these good qualities that we all seek as human beings. Now, the flip side of that is believing in prosperity, because I'm a big proponent of prosperity being the path to freedom. And it's completely true. I don't see it as inconsistent to believe both ways, but it is paradoxical, and people got to understand that. But if our paradigm was one of being born free, I mean absolute freedom. See, we don't talk about this. I don't hear it talked about in colleges and universities and high school, K through 12, none of it. Okay, people don't talk about just fundamental questions of perception, okay, and perspective, how we should look at